Well, hi, everybody. Coach Tom Menas, head coach of the Albany Empire, back again with you here today. Joining me today is Coach Damon Ware, assistant head coach, offensive coordinator. And we're here to talk to you today and give you updates as in regards to our recruiting process for players and for staff, for coaching staff. Coach Ware and myself have been busy talking with players, and also doing a lot of interviews in regards to coaching. Coach, you got anything you want to add to that since we're getting started here?
I mean, I guess, with the success we've had over the last couple of years, it's just kind of funny how little you get to celebrate those victories before you realize everybody's gunning for you and you got to get to work. So really, took about a week off and right back into it for the 2023 season. So a lot of stuff going on and just kind of excited to give everybody an update on what we've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. Last year we had a target on their back. This year we got a target on our front and our back. So it's kind of funny how when I talk to other coaches or other players, it's in a sense that they want to bump us off. I mean, that's the bottom line. They want to be the next Empire, and it's our job to not let that happen, right, Coach?
I mean, it's a lonely place at the top. People just don't understand. I mean, being at the top, I think you've gave a great analogy of just how small the mountaintop is and everything else is bigger beneath you. And so, we're on the top right now, and that ledge is very small, and every team is gunning and trying to recruit better and hire better staff, and everybody's gunning for us. I mean, after winning 2 in a row, it's everybody is going to give us their best shot, and but we're ready for it, and that's the good thing.
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about what if I was a team playing us. And I was thinking about how many onside kicks I'd do, how many gadget plays I'd have, what kind of personnel would I bring in? Because I think, we've talked about this during the season. I've asked our staff for the last 2 years, periodically, usually around midpoint of the season, preseason, midpoint, and before the playoffs, let's self-scout. If we had to play us, how would we beat us? And I don't think enough teams actually do that. I think they concentrate so much on their opponent. And what's funny is how many times we've gotten asked in the last 2 years where someone has said, how'd you prepare for them? How did you get ready? And I always want to say, we want them to prepare for us. If we just do what we do, it really doesn't matter what they do. Make them have to work twice as hard to prepare to beat us as opposed to the other way around. That's no cut on any other program or coach or anything like that. It's just our mentality, that we talk about. Anyway, just a point in fact. So what I wanted to do was, first of all, I wanted to talk about criteria. Okay. We've said this. Coach, you and I have echoed this message. I think the reason that you and I work so well together is that we have a very high bar that we set for ourselves, and our expectation is whoever we bring with us has to have that same expectation of being at that level. And doesn't mean we always get there. It just means that we always strive to get there. And then once we get there, we usually move the bar up even higher. And by doing that, we're never satisfied. I know in interviews, me, we both said at times, have you guys played your best ball yet? And I don't think after 2 years we have yet. I still don't think we played the perfect game. We've come close, but boy, I can't wait for that day. I'll probably be dead and buried when that happens. But I think if you're never truly satisfied, you create that culture. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the one thing that we've built is a system, And, it's not, going out and, finding these players and them creating the system. It's that we have a system in place and we like to plug players into that system and make our system work. And so what makes us difficult is the fact that we're tireless workers. We're in the office from early morning. I don't think there's any staff that probably puts as many hours as we do. And so we're never satisfied. Like I said, I don't think we would ever sit in the meeting and say, that was a perfect game. I just don't think it'll ever happen. But that's a good thing. And you're right. We always strive for, to be the best. And so in the off season, like I said, you take a short time off, and for our fans that don't understand what self scouting is for me, it's I'm going to go and watch every single film of us offensively. I'm going to go over every single play call. I'm going to go over every single result. I'm going to go over all the mechanics and against different defenses. And I'm going to figure out those things that we did well, those things that we didn't do well. And so, there's a couple plays I think that stuck out to me in that process of just things. I think the first drive against Jacksonville in the playoffs, sometimes you second guess yourself on trying to be too, tricky in play calling. And again, we didn't score, I think, on that first drive, getting down inside the red zone. And so those things stick with me as a coach. It's, I never want to look at a film and say, God, I could have called a better play. And so that's what self-scouting is all about. It's really trying to define that mentality, to define what works, define what we can do better as coaches and for next year. And so in training camp, I'll take those things that I've learned, just from play calls and make sure that those things never resonate themselves again. And so we spend a ton of time doing this, and that's, like I said, it's going to take somebody that outworks us to get to the point where we're at. And like I said, it's no knock on any other coaching staff. And like I said, I love it when coaches come in with great game plans and we've got to out coach them, with our adjustments in the game. And I think we've done a great job over 2 years getting that done. And again, that's why I stay in Albany. I mean, you and I have worked well together. We've done all the things that I would say are the right way to do things. And so, people ask me all the time, why don't you go be a head coach? It's like, I love where I'm at. I love Albany. I love our fans. If we can get our fan base back to that 10,000 people, at each game, I will be in seventh heaven and I'll never leave. And that's what it's all about, is finding your place that you're really comfortable with, staff that you're comfortable with, and building that system. And I think we've done a great job doing that.
Yeah, I agree 100% on all counts. That's the thing that I don't think people realize is that, when we started this, we knew it was going to be a rough road. And especially last year, when we had a couple weeks to put together a team, a roster, get uniforms, do all that. This year was no different because we had new rules. We had all new players. We had, a bunch of different factors into it with schedule and travel and those things. So, yeah, I think the tougher you are on yourself, like no one hits me harder than I hit myself, with criticism or with, their opinions. So, that's part of it. I wanted to get into one thing talking about, because I put a post out not too long ago that to all the players around the league, if you have an interest in playing for us, be patient. We'll have those conversations November 1st. But also for coaches, because part of what I told you the day I met you was that my philosophy has always been, as an elder statesman, is to give back to the game that's been so good to me, which is in developing coaches so they can seek opportunities. We had Dave Mogensen in year one end up coming off our staff, going to become the head coach of Iowa Barnstormers. This year, Chris McKinney going to the Columbus Lions as their head coach. And I know you've had, many opportunities. I always say, as long as some people will get this analogy, some won't. But I said, let's not get Okoyono'd, right?
Right.
We're the Beatles right now. We don't need anything bothering us. So, but you know, the bottom line is there's a criteria. Okay. I've done a couple interviews with coaches already. I know you sat in on one yesterday. And so I'm going to put the criteria out there. So these coaches that are contacting us now, we'll talk about them first and get into players. There's an expectation, okay? First and foremost, you have to have somewhat of a football background, okay? Some people have contacted me, you know, hey, I've never coached before, but I really want to coach. I really want to be a part of the Empire. As flattering as that is to us, this is pro football, okay? I can't just hire friends and family and cousins and guys that I know or had a beer with one time 5 years ago, because this is professional football and it's professional arena football. So we're looking for people that have at least a baseline bit of experience, either former player, coach, whether you coach in high school, college, and played arena ball, or you coach a little bit in arena ball, a little bit of the big field, those things. That's the kind of people we're looking to bring on. Now, that being said, character, loyalty, trust. Okay. So if we have to have those three components in there as well. And then a good football IQ. We've got a couple of our fans that probably know as much about arena football as you and I do. Okay. We got some pretty bright fans in relationship to their knowledge of stats and players and all that, but that doesn't necessarily translate into leading men and coaching and translating game plans and doing all the things that are necessary. So my biggest thing is, as you're putting in your resumes and you're sending them off to me and you're requesting an interview, I don't want to waste your time, and I sure don't want to waste my time, in the sense that if you don't think that you're qualified yet, go get a year of coaching semi-pro ball, go coach at the high school level, get some real on the ground experience, and then let's talk in the years to come. You know, the biggest thing is this. I try to get back with everybody. Okay. I know you do as well. If I don't call you back, you didn't get the job. Okay. Calling me 15 times or emailing me 15 times probably isn't going to do it. It just means that you're probably on the bottom of the pile that I'm looking at. Okay. Don't take it personally. That's what we did. That's what I did. That's what you've done when you've interviewed. Sometimes you get that second call. Sometimes you don't. I try to get back with everyone and explain why I didn't follow through with you. I will eventually get to everyone, whether it's a yes or a no, so we can have those conversations, and maybe I can help you with a game plan for your career in football. But our criteria right now, like I said, you know, is the character, the loyalty, and the trust factor as far as the staff goes. Coach Ware and I have beautiful wives, families, kids, and we spend more time with each other 6 months out of the year than we do with our families. So we have to have a love for each other. We have to have a mutual respect for each other. We have to have a sharing of ideas together. Put your egos outside. It's about winning football games, protecting the brand, and doing the things that we need to do that are necessary. So as you formulate your resumes and you send them in, you know, I can appreciate the fact if you were a guy who really loves football and wants to be involved in a winning program, but if you don't have the football experience, if you don't have a great knowledge of the game, if you don't have the character, loyalty, trust thing, and that'll come out in your interview, probably better you go someplace else. Okay. But if you have all those things, We're actively looking right now for a qualified offensive, defensive line coach, a DB coach, and possibly a defensive coordinator. And also in the sense that some interns. We're looking for young people that maybe don't have the great football resume yet, but have a passion to want to get into the profession. We had a kid with us in 2021, Sam Nelson, who was, I mean, one, if you had a daughter, you wanted him to date her, right? I mean, he was that quality of a guy. And then on top of it, his work ethic was unbelievable. His ability to do the things that needed to be done on a daily basis, from breaking film, doing reports, doing all that, helping on the practice field. And I think he went on, now he's an offensive line coach, correct?
Yeah, for high school, correct.
For high school. So he got, he's a young kid. He's like, what, 22 years old? And he's now the offensive line coach at a high school program. So those kinds of things going from an internship lead to bigger and better things, usually, either with us or with somebody else. And we want to give those opportunities to some young people too. So we're looking for a couple interns, and we're looking for a few members of our staff that we want to add on. Make no mistake, we are picky. Okay. Again, if I get to spend 6 months with you, one, we got to like you. Okay, we got to want to be with you. You got to want to be with us. And in that regard, since we do work 12, 14 hours a day, you have to have a great work ethic. I think our biggest apprehension in a lot of our interviews is we talk to guys that came from programs that don't work as hard. And that makes both you and I nervous. You want to elaborate on that?
Definitely. I always find it funny is in our profession, in sports in general, where everybody feels they can do this job. You can watch this on TV or watch it on YouTube, and you feel that somehow, some way you can do this job. And I liken this to, me watching Doogie Howser and going to perform surgery. It just doesn't work that way. But in coaching for us, it probably is culture shocking for most people. Because of the amount of hours that we put into it. And so everybody that's contacted me, I'm always apprehensive because, again, we do put in a lot of hours. And so making sure people understand that. And so, yes, there's people that come from other programs that maybe put in a couple hours a day, and that's their day. And then they come to us and we put in 12-hour days. That's different. And so not everybody loves this game to that extent the way we do. Not everybody's willing to put in the work that we are to be winners. And so that's always the thing is I tell everybody it's not, this isn't riding an amusement park ride where you jump on it and throw your hands up and hang on for 20 seconds and the ride's over. This is a grind that you have to absolutely love because there's a ton of work to it. The fans get to see the fun part, which is game day. That's the fun part. That's the day for the players. But what leads up to that game day is so much meticulous work. And if you don't love this game and love that grind, it won't be as fun working for us. So, we're looking for hardworking people. That's the biggest thing is that you're willing to keep your mouth closed, learn. We love to develop coaches. We have again, obviously you see the coaches moving out of our program. So obviously it's a place where you can come learn how to do it right, build a system, and take these tools in your toolbox and go elsewhere and be successful. So, but we are picky. And so obviously it's that time of year, again, get your resumes right, talk to yourself a little bit in the mirror in the morning on interview questions, because we're looking for the right type of people. And so I get it. There's a lot of people out there that think, hey, I throw papers in the morning for a living, but I want to be an umpire. It's as flattering as that is. And yes, we appreciate you. Buy a couple season tickets and we'll see you at the game. But this is a job. This is a science to it. There's a lot of work involved. And so, yeah, we're looking for those type of people.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, it's this year, you and I experienced this firsthand. We'll give the players days off periodically throughout the season. I'm one of those guys that believes that it's not just the best team that wins at the end of the year, it's the healthiest team that wins at the end of the year. And so we would give a day off for the players. And I've had coaches go, well, so we're off today, right? I just start laughing because we don't get days off. We work 7 days a week. And it's a little bit of a culture shock to some guys coming out of programs where, like you said, they meet a couple hours a day and then they're done. Where we don't just put in hours to put in hours. We work until the work is done. Now, if that means we got our work done in 10 hours, then great. If it means we got our work done in 16 hours, that's what we do. So it's not where we punch a clock. Like so many other jobs, it's you work until the work's done. So anyway, I wanted to put that out there for coaches. We're excited. We're grateful. We want you to send your resumes in. We know there's the perfect candidates out there that want to be a part of this culture and really want to spend 6 months out of the year on football. Okay. We try to keep everything around football. We get into meetings. We don't necessarily want to get into topics that aren't football related. We want to keep everything relative to our craft so we can get our work done and we can go home at the end of the day and still have some sanity by, week 15, 16, 17. So that's a good part of it. Okay. Anything else you want to add about coaching opportunities here?
I just want to touch upon one thing that you talked about was the healthiest team always is the team that's dangerous at the end. And I think if you look at our team over 2 years, how few injuries that we've had, I think this is a part that another, something that people just don't realize. If you look at how few injuries we've had over 2 years, we have to be doing something right to make sure our players are the healthiest at the end of the year. So as we talk about those players that are out there that, before you rush to sign any contract from anybody, if you have an interest of being somewhere that's all about football, it's all about development, it's all about, making guys, more technically sound and more prepared as athletes and also stay healthy. I mean, obviously you got to consider the umpire.
Yeah, I in 2 years, I'm trying to find wood.
Right.
No concussions. Now that's because we buy the best helmets, right? And we're aware of that. It's the way we practice. It's the way we hit each other at practice. Those factors come into it, and then we condition. And for the most part, I would say 95% of the time, we never hear a gripe from the guys about conditioning. The 5%, usually it's out of that 5% that complain about conditioning, 4% of that 5% are linemen, which I can relate to, right?
Right.
And then the other 1% are guys that are just plumb tired. Okay. So, but that conditioning with our line, that conditioning with our entire team really becomes relevant, or obvious, I should say, relevant is the better word, in the third and fourth quarters when you watch us play, and so, yeah, and that goes to the coaching aspect of it. Okay. We're not going to coach with egos. Okay. I have a steadfast rule for any coach that I ever hire and for myself, which is don't ever ask a player to do something you can't do or you haven't done. Okay. I'm never going to ask an offensive lineman to do a 2-minute run or 2-mile run. Okay. I'm not going to do that. There's no point in it. But I will ask that offensive lineman to do 1040s. Okay. Because that he will have to do. So there's a huge difference in when you take the ego out of the coaching side of it and you look for preservation and healthiness of the players, but that goes to the quality of the coaches too, the position coaches in indie period, in team period, rotation of players during practice, things like that, where you can maintain fresh legs and good attitudes. And, you don't want to get them to the point where they're in the fight and flight mode. Okay. Because that's when you get fights, or that's when you get flights, and they take off and they check out. So we try to keep it in that sweet spot. Okay. Talking about players real quick. The bottom line with players is this. We want a championship mentality. Okay. What's the championship mentality? Well, one is obviously your work ethic. But before you get into the football side, the same criteria we require for coaches, we require players, which is character, loyalty, and trust. Okay. We want to develop a team that legitimately cares about each other, not who gets the accolades, who gets the most, makes the most money, who does this, who does that, who gets the biggest, press articles every week. It doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as the job gets done. Okay. That ring gets handed out to the MVP, and that ring gets handed out to the 25th player on our roster. The same ring, no different, same ring. And so we want that kind of mentality where we come together and we do all that. Now, as far as talent level goes, yeah, we're picky. We want very talented football players. We don't have the opportunity to develop football players. So they have to come to us already with a certain skill set. Okay. I like veteran players, but you always got to have your rookie players as part of that formula to develop. And now this year, for the first time, we can sign players to 2-year contracts. So that gives us a chance to take let's say a rookie offensive lineman and put him in a situation where he can be maybe the 23rd guy, the 24th guy, but he's getting better, playing a few games throughout the year, but develop him into the following year where he could be a potential starter for you. And that's another great thing about this, the 2-year contract. For the first time, we're going to actually get an opportunity to develop young talent. Okay. And for the veterans that want to finish their careers here in Albany, it's a great opportunity for you to do that as well. So from a contractual standpoint, that's big news. Coach, get into the kind of players that, let's say, offensively you're looking for right now.
I mean, I'll speak of the overall spectrum. Obviously, continuity is huge. It's much easier to have continuity and bring guys in that understand the system and understand the process. And so I think the 2-year contracts is very unique. And I think that could be very helpful in keeping some of that continuity. We're not afraid to do it either way, whether it's bring in all new people, whether it's keep the continuity. We're gonna do it the Empire way, no matter what happens. Player wise, again, offensively, I'm always looking for explosive athletes. You must be explosive to play in this game. You've got to be able to build separation, whether that's as a runner, fullback running the ball, whether that's receiver. It doesn't matter. Even at quarterback, with some of the innovative things we do from the quarterback spot, I want my quarterback to be explosive. So that's obviously very, very important. We like the tough guys. I mean, in our football world, we call them dogs. Always want the dogs, the guys that'll run into a fight. There could be 20 people in a scrum and they'll run into it by themselves. Those guys consistently, again, just play better throughout the course of the game. When things get hard, they're always going to be moving forward. So those are two of the very big things that I look for. But then again, it's the football IQ as well. We don't do easy football. We don't just throw 5 plays together and try to, win a championship with 5 plays. Our game plans really change considerably week to week to week. And so you have to be a guy that can get in the playbook and study. You've got to be a guy that, that from the start of the season to the end of the season, you're still in your playbook just the same every single night, going over film. So again, you do have to have that football IQ. You can be a very explosive athlete and not study, and it makes you not a very good football player. So again, we spend more time on football than most of the people out there. So you've got to be that hard worker. And so those are kind of the players that we look for as far as the baseline players that we're looking for when we're looking at film.
And defensively, because usually it's the same players now, okay, for the most part. We're looking for, very, very tough, aggressive mindset, where you're not so much as on offense where you're assignment driven. On defense, you're more disruptive and you're more reactive. Okay, I use the terms read, react, execute on every defensive play. So on every defensive play, you have to have the ability to read the play. Then you have to be able to adjust to the play. Okay. So if I'm an outside B gap and it's going in the A gap, I need to two gap him, go into the A gap, be prepared to make contact while still maintaining gap integrity of my B gap in case he bounces it out. Then you need to be able to execute the play, which is at that point, just put your face in it and do it. I think one of the other things that people may or may not understand about the Empire players is this: we're not dirty. We're not dirty players. We don't teach dirty plays. We don't do any of that. But what we are is we're loyal and we're family. Mess with one, you mess with us all. And I'll leave it at that. And so when you see a reaction by us, trust me, it is because you've messed with someone in our tribe. Okay. And that's how we react. And I wouldn't change that for anything. To talk about you talked about game plans. I think it was like week 7 or 8, and I came up with this goal line defense where I had to sit down and explain it to the players. And I said, hey, guys like Calvin Fantz, who's fantastic edge rusher, or Metz, who's a fantastic edge rusher. I had to get with these guys and say, I got good news and bad news. The good news is you're doing a great job. Now I'm going to ask you to sell out your body and go across your guy's face down on the goal line. And sure enough, they, obviously hands went up. Well, what about this? What about it? I go, it's not your play. Okay. It's Shorts and Haig's play to make. It's not your play. All you're doing is you're going to get beat up. And it's their play. Well, the first day of practice, no, I'm not sure I like this. By the third day of practice, wow, this really works. And then I think we were the toughest to score on in the red zone the rest of the season, because that's the unselfish nature. But I couldn't put a defense like that in unless they had character, loyalty, and they trusted. So again, that's why those things work. Okay. We did a lot of press man on their back end, and boy, did I get all year on that. Right. And I said, patience, you'll see. And then you watch the championship game and you truly see what our press man looked like. And it took time to develop, but now those guys can play any kind of defense on the back end, because once you can play press man, you can play anything. And so that process started actually in camp, and it took weeks and weeks and weeks to develop, into something pretty special. A lot of growing pains in that. Okay. But again, I think that if everyone takes the approach that's interested in coming to play for us, you're going to work hard. You're going to be treated very, very well. I'll stand by this. I think Mike, our owner, he's going to cringe when I say this, but it's the truth. We pay better than anybody. We make sure you're housed better than anybody, and we feed you better than anybody. And I don't think anyone can come close to arguing with that standpoint, because as former players, coaches, we know what it's like to be treated very well and what it's like to not be treated very well. So bottom line is, we're going to always make sure that our players are treated with the utmost. Like I said, we may not be the NFL, but it doesn't mean we can't act like the top tier football. I know if I was playing arena football, I would want to be treated the way we treat our players. And that goes from their schedule, their housing, their food, their equipment, and all that. Like it's funny because when the season ended, one of the first things, Damon, and I think you and I talked about, was making sure we got a couple extra sets of shorts and t-shirts for the guys next year, or we get that third uniform, which I think the fans are going to go crazy for. Just things like that we've already started the process on. Where other teams are thinking of, boy, I can't, the season's over, I'm going to take a break for a month or two. We started up right away on all those things. And it wasn't for us, it was for the players. Because once you reach that pinnacle, you want to make sure that you allow the players to feel like they're coming to the ultimate franchise to play football. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, the great thing is, touching on the amenities that we provide, it comes at a cost. If you don't want to do football every day, if you don't want to be meticulous in your responsibilities, you don't want to work extremely hard throughout the course of the season, those amenities won't mean anything. And so, we truly run our program as a true professional football team. There's no part-time job with us. There's no, doing it part-time and just, playing with it. So the amenities come at a cost. And I think I like that trade-off for our players, is you will be treated very well. However, you will work harder than you've probably worked anywhere else that you've been. And so I love that there's always that give and take. I mean, relationships are always give and take. Can't be all give, can't be all take. And we're truly like that. I mean, we built this team around the give and take aspect and making sure players get better after every year. I tell the offense every year, I will guarantee that you'll be a better player at the end of this each and every year. And so it's important that we live up to those expectations as well. So it is a give and take. I love it. I love the way our organization treats everybody from top to bottom. I mean, the equipment manager, our interns, we're all treated very, very well. And so again, just a great place. So players, if you've never been in a really, really professional environment, this is the environment that you'll thrive in.
Agreed 100% on all counts. And if you don't, you won't be here. At this level, that's the other thing. We're not college. We don't dress 90 kids. We dress 21 and we keep 25 on our roster. If you're not contributing, you're not going to be here. Our 25th guy this year was just as important as our number one guy this year, because we couldn't have done what we did at practice. We couldn't have done what we did in meetings. We couldn't have done what we did in drills if we didn't have him. Having the ability to have that 24th guy take 60% of the reps on a Tuesday, instead of having the guy who just did 100 plays on Saturday have to do them all, is critical. So, like I said, every ring fits, they're all the same, from the 25th to the first guy. And it's important that we keep that in mind as we move forward. So, to wrap this thing up, Coach, couple things. Over the next week, this week, for the first time this year, we're going to have contracts go out. And we're going to go have those contracts go out to people who we want to invite back from our organization. And the second part of that is we're going to have more coaches interviews, I'm sure, this week, and we'll keep developing the staff. But you and I have learned we're not going to be in a rush this year to develop our staff. Well, we joked about this, but not joked about this. If it ever came down to it, we couldn't find the right fit, it's going to be me, you, and an intern, right? So, and we're okay with that. But we don't necessarily think a big staff is the best staff. I think some coaches in the league this year found that out the hard way. You get a lot of different opinions in a room, and it's kind of difficult sometimes to get your work done. But for the most part, we're excited about the signings of our contracted players and also our non-contracted recruitment that's going on right now with college and other leagues throughout the United States. We don't bring in guys just to bring in numbers. It doesn't matter. We're allowed 35 in camp. If we have 35 great candidates to make our squad, we'll have 35. If we have 27, we'll have 27. It has nothing to do with the number. It has to do with the quality of the athlete that we want to bring in. So anyway, that being said, Coach, you got anything you want to close out with?
Just stay watching our social media channels. We'll have some signings here real soon, and let's welcome all those guys either in or back as they come in. And we definitely look forward to another great 2023 season.
Very good. And again, fans, I can't recruit other players from other teams, but you can. We'll leave it at that. Enjoy your rest of your week, everybody. Next week we'll be back on and we'll be talking about our signings and any updates that we have. And then once we get through the recruitment process, probably by the middle of October, we'll go ahead and take a little break, and then hopefully start November 1st with the official coaches show and a new co-host with me, and that will give you weekly updates moving forward for the rest of the year. As far as for me, I'm blessed beyond words working with Coach Ware and our ownership, Mike and Matt, who's taken over for that other guy. And we're excited about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We want to put a great product out. Again, I'll say this one more time. Buy your season tickets, buy them now, get them early. That is a tremendous help for us in recruiting. Okay. You want to know how you can be the 9th man on our squad? Go ahead and buy a season ticket, because when we recruit and they see that, it's a huge help for us. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you real soon. Thank you.
Go Empire.
Go Empire.